Have you ever wondered why certain political figures, or even some religious groups, seem to constantly focus their energy on attacking vulnerable or marginalized communities? It's a pattern we see repeated throughout history, and it has almost nothing to do with justice or morality. It's about power, plain and simple. When politicians target a specific group, whether it's immigrants, a religious minority, or the LGBTQ+ community, they are often consolidating power and rallying their base. It is easy to secure votes by framing an issue as a so-called spiritual battle or a fight against attacks on their own community's way of life. The calculation is cold and strategic. They target groups that are less able to fight back politically or socially. Why? Because attacks on vulnerable communities generate massive support from a larger, more powerful electorate, while limiting the potential for significant pushback from the targeted group itself. It's the path of least resistance for maximizing political gain. Targeting vulnerable groups is also a massive deflection technique. Scapegoating allows politicians to blame complex societal problems like economic uncertainty or social unrest on a specific, often minority, group. This provides a simple, albeit false, explanation and effectively shifts the responsibility away from the leaders themselves. Fear and anger are powerful motivators in politics. They elicit strong emotional responses that drive people to the polls. Then there's the underlying belief held by some: zero-sum politics. This is the idea that if one group gains increased rights or access, their own group must suffer a proportional loss. This justification allows them to feel righteous while actively working to maintain their superior status. Now, let's talk about certain religious institutions. While faith often guides people toward compassion, some organizations prioritize institutional preservation over the well-being of individuals. This is how abuses get covered up and victims are disregarded, especially those who are already vulnerable. They exploit people's trust. Individuals who are grieving, at a low point, or desperately seeking belonging are often targeted because they are more susceptible to manipulation. In these systems, we often see charisma valued over character. A leader's ability to advance the kingdom might be prioritized over their accountability, allowing abusive behavior to go completely unchecked. Many who operate in this way hold an anti-democratic, hierarchical view of society. Think Christian nationalism, which actively promotes discrimination against those who don't fit the dominant mold, whether they are religious minorities or LGBTQI+ individuals. So, how do we fight back against this political and religious bullying? We need collective action focused on demanding accountability, protecting the vulnerable, and shifting the cultural narrative. First, we must publicly denounce elected officials who use racist or divisive scapegoating to avoid accountability. Silence is compliance. We also need to focus on structural electoral reforms, things like ranked choice voting and ending partisan gerrymandering. These changes reduce polarization and remove the incentive for politicians to use extreme, exclusionary rhetoric just to secure a narrow primary win. On the streets, practice being an upstander. If you see harassment happening, call it out in the moment or delegate help from someone in a better position to intervene. We can also engage in deep canvassing, non-judgmental, story-sharing conversations that build empathy and actively reduce the effectiveness of those nationalist or exclusionary narratives. Holding religious institutions accountable means insisting they create robust systems for monitoring behavior, including mandatory background checks and written abuse prevention policies. If a leader is caught bullying or abusing power, you must clearly state that this behavior is unacceptable and will result in consequences like removal from leadership. If you or someone you know has experienced harassment or abuse within an institution, document everything: emails, witness statements, and consider consulting with attorneys specializing in institutional misconduct. Organizations like SNAP, the Survivors Network of Those Abused by Priests, and the Faith Trust Institute offer vital support and training. We also need to empower vulnerable members inside these communities by establishing buddy or mentoring systems to reduce the power imbalance that bullies often exploit. If you're looking for resources, check out the Trevor Project, which focuses on crisis intervention for LGBTQ+ youth. Americans United advocates for the separation of church and state, preventing religious ideologies from being used as a tool for political bullying. Groups like the Southern Poverty Law Center monitor hate groups and provide resources to counter intolerance. It takes courage to stand up, but by demanding accountability and protecting our neighbors, we can shift the focus from fear-mongering to true leadership and genuine compassion. Thanks for watching. Be an upstander, and I'll see you next time.